Sa dami ng mga issues na hinaharap ng ating bansa ngayon, not just locally but internationally, I wanted to invite a member of Congress na somehow may alam din sa mga issues natin. Sa oil crisis, sa mga solusyon din sa ating gobyerno, plus pag-uusapan din natin yung mga political dynasties, party list system, and yung mga ethics ng kanyang mga miyembro. Please welcome the chairman of the Ethics Committee, Congressman JC Abalos. Congressman JC.
Magandang araw, Chris. Sa lahat ng mga sumusubaybay sa ating programa, gusto kong magpasalamat sa pagkakataong ito para malaman ng ating mga kababayan kung ano ang nangyayari sa sitwasyon. Pero bago pa man ang lahat, gusto ko sabihin, Sir Chris, sa ating mga kababayan na makikiisa ako sa kanila, sa ating mga panalangin na sana tumigil na yung war kasi grabe yung epekto.
Grabe nga eh. At sa mga may hindi alam ang nakikita ko lang, parang may mga naratibo lumalabas ngayon na kasalanan ng gobyerno natin kung bakit mataas ang presyo ng mga bilihin, ba't daw hindi binababa. May mga, hindi ko sa marami, may mga sektor na nagsasabi na wala daw ginagawa, not enough daw, at bakit hindi daw kumilos ang ating gobyerno. Hindi ba kumikilos ang ating gobyerno?
Akin, sa tingin ko, kumikilos naman ng ating gobyerno pero kailangan natin tingnan yung sitwasyon kasi ang bansang Pilipinas, net importer tayo ng langis. Kung titingnan natin yung nangyayari sa Strait of Hormuz, for example, 80% of that goes to the Asian markets. 90% of the LNG, Asian market rin yung pinupuntahan. So napakalaki po ng dependency natin dyan. I-factor in rin natin yung tumataas na presyo ng dolyar. We buy fuel in dollars.
Yep.
Factor in rin natin yung VAT and excise tax. There are numbers showing na yung fuel prices last week, diesel 124 pesos, 90 pesos, gas. Ayon sa datos, around 50 to 80% yung naging import cost nun. So we are very dependent on that and I think immediate reform is needed. Structural reforms are more important and of course we need long-term sustainability.
Okay, pero mga immediate reforms na naririnig ko right now is there's a call by certain sectors na tanggalin na daw yung VAT. Tanggalin ba completely? Yun ba sinasabi na or reduced VAT? O yung e-VAT ang pinag-uusapan natin?
Tama. Bago natin pag-usapan yung VAT, Chris, maganda rin pag-usapan yung excise tax kasi dalawa yan eh. Meron tayong VAT, meron rin tayong excise tax. Kung tatandaan natin, nung nakaraang mga linggo, naisabatas na yung Republic Act 12316 kung saan binibigyan ng kapangyarihan ang Pangulo na bawasan yung excise tax. So that's one of the solutions that could be implemented in the short term dahil 10 piso yung maaaring mabawas sa diesel.
Wow.
Napakalaking bagay rin noon.
Bakit hindi pa ba nagagawa ng Pangulo? Kung napasa na, pinasa na to ng Kongreso, di ba?
Yes, pinasya na siya ng Kongreso, ngunit ayon sa batas, in coordination to with the DOE and depende rin to sa recommendation ng DBCC.
Are you saying may posibilidad na hindi ibaba ang excise tax if the recommendation of the Department of Energy goes against the actual bill that was been passed in Congress?
Well, that matter is up to the discretion of our economic managers kasi
Okay.
napaka-importante rin yung collections dyan kasi meron tayong mga short-term relief na ginagawa tulad yung targeted social amelioration and isa na rin na magandang ginagawa ng DOTR LTFRB yung service contracting program na pinoprovide natin sa ating mga public utility vehicles para at least yung mga driver, maski pa paano, kumita sila, maski onte, basta hindi lang malugi. And pangalawa, yung commuters natin, hindi malaki yung maipapasa sa kanilang cost. So napakagandang programa ito.
Okay, so sana talaga, sana matuloy talaga yung pag-suspend nun. Or is it suspension or temporary suspension ba yung pinag-uusapan natin or actual reduction, permanent reduction in the excise tax?
Right. Ako naniniwala ako na ang suspension sa excise tax, hindi siya sapat para mapababa ang presyo ng langis. Dahil kung titignan natin, 6 hanggang 10 piso lang ang maaaring mabawas. We need several different solutions. Tulad nitong service contracting na nangyayari.
Okay.
Bibigyan mo ng 30 to 40 pesos per kilometer ang mga PUJ, PUVs. Yung mga bus, bibigyan mo ng 100 pesos per kilometer. So binibigyan natin ng kabuhayan unang-una ang mga nasa transport sector na manggagawa. And of course, lalo na dyan, yung mga commuters na namamasada papunta sa trabaho, at least hindi ganun kaapektado ang transport cost.
So in other words, parang sa-subsidize ng gobyerno ang ating public utility vehicles.
Yes, and this is the same thing that happened during the COVID pandemic. Diyan nagsimula yan. Kaya mula nung unang termino ko sa Kongreso, parati kong sinuportahan yung service contracting program. And I think, una, napakamalas ng generation natin kasi nangyari sa atin yung COVID. Ngayon, tinamaan tayo ng Middle East crisis.
Yep.
It's an opportunity for us to introduce structural reforms that would last future generations para ready tayo.
At hindi lang yun, ano, sana makagawa tayo ng mga structural reforms that would actually insulate us from crises that are out of our control. Kasi ito nangyayari sa Iran, wala naman talaga sa control natin to eh. Pero damay tayo eh. We feel the biggest impact. I think all over Asia tayo yung pinaka tinamaan eh in terms of pagtaas ng presyo ng langis eh, di ba?
Yes, and I think yung nag-iisang bansa ata, please correct me if I'm wrong, baka Singapore lang ata mas mahal sa atin.
Yeah. There's another country na kasing taas siya. Oh.
Oo.
Pero doon naman kasi income levels are higher, so they're more resilient compared to us.
Yes.
Yun nakita kong problem. Okay, so with regards to the VAT, para sa akin, ano, nakikita ko lang, although I agree with sana ma-suspend nga yung VAT or matanggal nga, mabawasan yung VAT, I think that we have to approach things with a little bit of caution kasi may economic impact yan that could probably erode the economy kung mali ang mga decision na nagawa. Pero at the same time, there has to be some urgency kahit papano. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not gonna pretend to know. I feel bad for the administration eh. Kasi para sa akin, ano, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's right.
Gawin mo, may magagalit. Hindi mo gawin, may magagalit.
Tama.
Tapos kung ginawa mo, tapos mali ang resulta at mali ang nangyari at yung ekonomiya biglang lalo gumuho at bumagsak, ikaw pa rin madadamay.
Right. And ngayon maraming pending legislation sa Congress na makakatulong. And all of it is worth exploring. One, okay, pwede natin i-explore yung possibility of reducing VAT. But of course, yan yung one of the highest revenue sources ng government. Eh. And of course, we don't want it to affect the delivery of government service. Number two, ako po, may mga bills ako, Chris, na gustong gawing tax deductible ang critical illness mula sa income tax. Of course, dapat taasin rin natin yung threshold dahil 250,000 yung income tax na exempt. Gawin natin 500,000 pesos.
I like that.
Right. Overtime, night shift differential, hazard pay, exempt na rin natin sa income tax. Kasi sayang rin eh.
May ibang bansa, ginagawa nila, parang, again, this one, you can fact check me, ano, parang narinig ko, may ibang bansa sa Middle East, I think, is it Dubai, na walang income tax and they're only taxed on consumption.
Oh, wow.
May ganon. And for me, that's an interesting idea kung consumption tax lang rather than income tax. Although I understand there are people that are gonna say, paano yung mga mayayaman? They should really pay more in income tax. Sure, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, ang pinakamahirap na problema natin sa Pilipinas, yung pagkolekta ng income tax. Dahil marami sa ating mga kababayan ay nawawalan na ng tiwala sa gobyerno, which you're a part of, JC. Naintindihan mo naman yung pagwala ng tiwala ng ating mga kababayan, di ba?
Yes.
And a lot of them feel bad about paying taxes. And a lot of them are probably not paying the right amount of tax. Dahil ang corruption na nakikita natin ay hindi lang sa budget process, also in the collection.
Right.
Na maraming mga tao sa BIR, hindi ko nila lahat. But let's face it, if you ask the public, I'm sure if there's a survey on this, lalabas, one of the most corrupt departments is either the BIR or customs. Ngayon, pag tinignan mo, marami yung LOA issue nga, di ba, na nangyari. Kaya, paano makikita ng gobyerno o lalaki ang revenue ng gobyerno kung ang karamihan ng ating mga kababayan, or at least a good portion of them, are not paying the right amount of tax, don't want to pay the right amount of tax, or are coerced not to pay the right amount of tax because binubulsa na lang ng mga assessors, whoever they are, yung dapat na buwis na binabayaran ng mga tao.
That is right. And ako rin, Chris, naniniwala ako na if we were to deem ourselves as a middle-income economy, of course, karamihan ng nagbabayad sa mga buwis, mga middle class yan eh.
Yes.
And of course, kailangan natin mag-introduce ng mga reforma na makakatulong sa ating middle class. Hindi lang dapat para sa poorest of the poor. Kasi kung titingnan natin yung ating mga tax reforms, kunwari sa VAT, nila natin yung mga items covered. Okay, you have your essential goods sa grocery, nandyan yung mga delata, yung mga juice, mga ibang processed food, nandyan rin yung fuel, of course, restaurant, hotel accommodation, certain professional services, etc. I favor, kaya ako nagpasa ng legislation, I am in favor of providing tax relief sa ating middle class as opposed to yung babawasan mo basta-basta yung VAT. Kasi kailangan mo tingnan yung sektor na makikinabang eh.
Yeah.
So let's say, tatanggalin mo yung VAT. Tingnan natin yung mga industries affected and yung mga individuals na makikinabang. Pangalawa, kung magpapas tayo ng tax reforms, anong income bracket yung i-consider mong middle class? Ako naniniwala ako kung 500,000 or less per annum, dapat hindi ka na nagbabayad ng income tax. So, dapat ibalik natin yung serbisyo sa ating mga kapwa kababayan.
Yun, okay yun. And for me, with regards to the consumption tax, like the VAT, personally, I mean, I would love to see, overall, I would love to see a lowering of the taxes. Number one. Number two, ang isa nakita kong problema din, is parang ang daming friction at ang hirap mag-file ng taxes. Kahit ako tinitignan ko yung COR ko, tapos sabihin, ano ba, hindi ko maintindihan paano ko mababayaran ako? Often do I have to file this? Is it monthly, quarterly? Halos yung buong oras mo nauubos to figure out how to file these taxes. It is very difficult to pay taxes. Why does the government make it so difficult?
That I don't know kasi ang daming red tape and of course we want it to be efficient talaga.
Okay. So, as a member of Congress, maybe that's something that you can look into and na magawa natin ang paraan to make it more smooth, less friction, less red tape. I'll tell you, pag mabawasan ng red tape sa pagbabayad ng buwis, magbabayad ng tao. So there are several factors. Lessen the friction, number one. Number two, of course, lessen the corruption.
Yeah.
Pag nagkaroon ng tiwala ang taong bayan, magbabayad sila ng buwis.
And Chris, I'm actually definitely in agreement with what you said. Kasi kung mag-introduce tayo ng maraming reforms, kunwari, pumasa na, deductible na yung critical illness, paano kung hindi natin naayos yung red tape? Sayang naman
Yes.
yung mga possible efforts na nangyayari ngayon sa legislature na maaaring makatulong sa ating mga kabayan. Kunwari, naging tax exempt yung OT, yung 13th month, tumaas yung ceiling bigla. Baka, of course, we need to eliminate friction. Implementation has to be excellent in order for us to allow greater reforms in the future.
By the way, just out of curiosity, yung mga sinasabi mong reforms, are they now pending bills in Congress?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Yung 500,000?
Yung 500,000, I just filed that very recently. Pero yung final ko dun sa OT,
And critical
night
illness?
shift, critical illness, 13th month, and other benefits na pag-increase ng ceiling, I filed it I think last year pa.
Wow! Okay. Pero yan, yung pala yung isa. Sa mga viewers natin, alam mo, nagtataka sila. When you say you filed something, tapos bakit hindi na take up in Congress? Bakit ang tagal? How long has it been?
I don't know baka a little less than a year.
Okay, so what takes so long with Congress to be able to take up these issues and actually to form a bill?
Well, one of the things we have to consider is 300 plus kami. Napaka-onti lang ng aming mga standing committees at ang bawat committee may kanya-kanyang priority. And of course, yung nangyayari ngayon sa Congress, nung nakaraang araw, meron kaming briefing sa nangyayari sa energy sector. Kanina lang, and ongoing ngayon, binibrief pa rin kami sa nangyayari. Of course, maraming kaganapan na beyond our control. But of course, after all this, sa pinagdadaan natin, isa rin siyang opportunity na makapag-introduce tayo ng reforms at mapansin yung mga reforms na maaaring makatulong, hindi lamang ngayon, kung hindi pati sa kinabukasan.
Where is this problem or lag that we're seeing from approval to implementation?
Right. So let's walk through the legislative process. Anything to do with tariffs or income, Constitution provides that it must originate from the House of Representatives. After that, tatransmit sa Senate, and then kung merong disagreeing provisions, yung version ng Senate at version ng House, magkakaroon ng Bicameral Conference Committee wherein we reconcile, and then once matapos yung committee report ng BICAM, papasok na siya sa Pangulo for his signature. So the legislative process is a very complicated thing kasi bicameral chamber tayo
Right.
Kung iisa lang yung chamber natin, at least diretso na. Kaso lang dalawa tayo This
Okay.
is to ensure checks and balances and of course para siguraduhin na refined ang mga batas na naipapasa.
Let's talk about your role as part of the ethics, chairman of the ethics committee. May ilang mga miyembro ng inyong branch of government na nasampahan na ng complaint. And I'll just mention them. The ones that we know so far is Kiko Barzaga, and then there's Bong Suntay. Anyone else that you can name that has already been filed a complaint?
Well, para sa kaalaman ng ating mga viewers, yung Committee on Ethics, ayon sa aming internal rules and procedures, all matters that are currently within our jurisdiction is considered confidential. So as regards to the other ethics complaints, I can't confirm the existence or non-existence of these complaints. However, I'll go as far as saying this, Chris. May marami kaming pending cases na pinaprocess ngayon at pag-resume namin sa May, expect us to read at least a couple of committee reports. Ngayon, dahil may nabasa na kaming committee report on the floor, I think I can already speak about this. Yes, meron ngang instance this Congress na may sinuspend kaming member.
Okay, you're referring to Kiko Barzaga?
Yeah.
Okay. Sige, for me, being a layperson, watching from the sidelines, I really think you guys, ang bait pa nyo. Kiko Barzaga has been so disruptive that para sa akin dapat ma-expel na siya. Giving him 2 suspensions with the fact na ayaw niya umattend mismo sa mga hearings nyo to try to even defend himself. Kumbaga, pambabastos yung ginawa pa niya sa sariling komite, which he is a part of the House. And he disrespected the very institution that he's a part of, deserves an expulsion, in my opinion. Now, tapos na yung kanyang pangalawang suspension.
Yes.
Pagbalik niya, ano na?
Well, ito, Chris, dahil nabanggit natin yung unang suspension, at nabasa ko rin naman ito sa committee report. You're correct, Chris, na naging mabait rin yung committee kasi at all times, no, we must take note. An ethics proceeding is quasi-judicial and quasi-political. Quasi-judicial, in a sense that we are guided by our own internal rules as well as the Constitution. Quasi-political, kasi yung nagpo-process ng mga ethics complaint, elected public officials. At yung authority ng Congress to discipline its own members, nanggagaling din yan sa Constitution. Ano ba yung grounds ng unang ethics complaint? Madalas mapag-usapan na topic nung lumabas yung committee report ay yung freedom of expression as opposed to disorderly conduct. Yun yung unang napag-usapan dyan. Ngayon, kung babalikan natin yung committee report na naganap, yung mga annexes na linalaman noon, merong pronouncement saying to the effect na sunugin yung House of Representatives, magdala ng pellet gun sa airsoft sa rally, merong lewd photos of women, and merong ostentatious display of wealth. Ako po bilang chairperson ng Committee on Ethics, these posts, these remarks, hindi naman siya political exercise or political criticism. These are acts of lawlessness and anarchy that can't come from a member of Congress. That is why the first suspension was read. And yun naman yung linalaman ng committee report namin.
You know, ako naman, honestly, I don't have any ill feelings towards Kiko Barzaga. But I think lang he needs to learn discipline. He needs to learn to be disciplined. He can't just be running around saying whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Merong proper place and proper time for everything. And siguro, sabi ko nga, dahil walang maayos na naging magulang ata si Kiko Barzaga, hindi siya makontrol ng magulang niya, Congress will act as the parent right now for Kiko Barzaga.
Right. And Chris, dahil nabanggit mo magulang I just wanna say for the information of everyone, his father, the late PD Barzaga, napakagaling at napakabait ng taong yan. As a matter of fact, when I was a neophyte congressman, nung inattend ko ang pinakaunang bicameral conference committee ko, nasa Senate kami, part ako ng House delegation, ang dami niya sa aking in-impart na guidance dahil ano yan, election law professor yan.
Wow!
At, napakahusay at napakabait ng tatay niya. And I would only hope, of course, na all members of Congress would observe proper decorum. Pero yung tatay niya, saludo ako sa kanya.
I think yung kaya nga naboto si Kiko Barzaga dahil sa dad niya . Why Kiko Barzaga won is not because of who he is, but because of who his dad was. Sa pangalan niya, sa distrito nila. And the problem I find is with the current political dynasties. And JC, I mean, your last name's Abalos. And just so people know that I know that you guys are facing that same issue.
Yes.
How do you feel about the political dynasty bill, anti-political dynasty bill being filed and the criticism na ang ina-adapt ay yung version ni Sandro Marcos, which is almost, such as sinabi ni Erice, ni Congressman Erice, legitimizing political dynasties instead of banning it.
Before I answer that question, Chris, I would just like to put on record also, I think it's the first or maybe the second time in the history of Congress na umabot sa plenary debate ang usapin tungkol sa political dynasty. And this matter affects not just people from political families, but everyone. Lalo na yung botanteng Pilipino, no? It's very important for us to have an anti-political dynasty bill that encapsulates the principles of fair and equal access to public service. That is why, nung nasa committee level pa lang ito, I actually put on record that I remain open to any possible improvements or refinements in the latter stages of the legislative process. Ako, dahil yan ang nakalagay sa konstitusyon at naniniwala ako na ang bawat isa sa atin dapat may equal access to public service, boboto ako in favor. And at the same time, nananalangin rin ako na kung ito ay maipasa sa House at kung ang Senate, maipasa rin nila ang bersyon nila. Kung magkakaroon ng BICAM Conference Committee tungkol sa napakahalagang usapin na ito, tulad ng 2026 budget, magandang mapanood rin ng ating mga kababayan kung ano yung magiging talakayan tungkol sa napaka-importanteng topic na ito.
Okay, so with regards to that, so there are two approaches kasi that I see with the anti-political dynasty bill. Yung version ng ni na Sandro Marcos, Congressman Sandro Marcos, is starting from the lowest level, bare minimum. Meron naman sinabit yung mga opposition blocks at the highest level, the most restrictive level possible. Na kahit ako nung binabasa ko, I'm like, wow, can you even implement that? Parang hirap nun, fourth degree of consanguinity. I was like, parang hirap nun. So you either start here, tapos you work down, compromises mo, or you start here and work up. I like the working down part Yung hindi, baka sobra naman, yung gawin natin second na lang or third na lang, versus yung sobrang wala, tapos aakit ka. But at the same time, I'm not saying anyone's better than the other. Ako lang personally, I prefer the other one. I want to know, because people are cynical about this. Dahil pag natuloy ito, damay kayo.
Right. Ako, yung sa akin, ang pagkakaroon ng anti-political dynasty, a piece of legislation is better than nothing. Kasi sa ngayon, yung frameworks lang na ino-operate natin, yung SK and yung BARM, yun lang ata parang may mga anti-dynasty provision Ako, naniniwala ako na, of course, kailangan natin ibalanse ang karapatan ng isang individual na tumakbo para sa isang halalan, but at the same time, kailangan walang advantage na hindi makatarungan na ibinibigay sa mga dynas pagdating sa pagtakbo ng halalan. Kaya ako naniniwala ako, in order to solve it, of course, number one, a legislation must be passed prohibiting members of political families from running. Number two, naniniwala ako importante dito yung edukasyon Kasi kunwari, sa local level pa lang, naniniwala ako na pag dating ng 18 years old, ng mas kasinong mamamayan ng Pilipinas, kailangan malaman mo, ano ba ang responsibilidad ng isang barangay captain or kagawad? Ano ang kanyang trabaho? Ang councilor, ano ang trabaho ng councilor, ng vice mayor, mayor, on the way up? I think importante ang electoral education. That way, kung ang ating future voters, yung basehan nila for voting would be dependent on platform and previous performance. Hindi dahil kamag-anak lang siya ni ganyan or yung pangalan niya matunog. Hindi batayan yung apelyido sa serbisyo.
Right. And for me, with regards to the political dynasties, kasi nakikita kong problema. Pag tinignan mo lahat ng LGUs, for example, I'm not sure of the number, but there's quite a few that pag tinignan mo, they've been around since 1986.
Baka nga even mula nung Spanish colonization pa.
May iba. Yeah, sure. So, yun yung nakikita kong problem. And a lot of times, wala nang tumatakbo to oppose them. Because people don't think they're gonna win anyway. And they have a stronghold. I think that an effective anti-political dynasty bill should be able to address that in terms of succession.
Right.
Kasi di ba, 3 years, 3 terms for pag LGU. Even for Congress, di ba, 3 terms. Pero ang problema doon ay papalitan ng kamag-anak. Kaya na naman tayo. So, ang nakikita ko kasi yung political dynasty is not just about the simultaneous running of relatives, also the consecutive. Na dapat pagkatapos, hindi na pwede tumakbo yung asawa mo, kapatid mo, kamag-anak mo, and let somebody else run.
Right. That is right. And in some versions, in other versions of the anti-political dynasty that was passed in the House, yung iba ganon, ina-apply nila yung hindi lamang yung simultaneous running, kasama rin yung succession. As regards to that, Chris, I'm in agreement with any and all versions that could possibly be passed.
JC, being an Abalos, I'm gonna keep my eye on this, and I really hope to see the sincerity para gawin yung tama. And I know it will be disadvantageous probably for you and your family. Kasi syempre matatamaan kayo na to.
Yung sa akin lang, Chris, kailangan masunod yung Constitution
Okay.
at all times. And of course, any good reform would be beneficial to all of us. So dapat yun yung unahin natin.
Yeah, kasi para sa akin, kung wari ang mapasa ay yung version ni na Congressman Sandro Marcos na wala masyadong real changes, it'll be a travesty to the Constitution. It will trivialize the issue at hindi lang yun, baka lalo pang mawalan ng tiwala ang mga kababayan natin sa sinseridad ng ating mga mambabatas.
That is why, Sir Chris, I mentioned kanina yung very complicated nating legislative process kung
Yes.
ba't mahirap magpasa ng batas. Babasahin yung committee report, yung sa Senate, meron silang sariling proceedings pagdating sa ganyang bagay. And like I said kanina, pagdating sa Bicameral Conference Committee, dapat binabantayan pa rin ng taong bayan ang bawat batas, panukalang batas na ipinoproseso sa lower and sa upper chamber dahil parating pwede pa yung magbago eh.
Ang sinasabi mo ba with regards to the anti-political dynasty bill, wala nang amendments sa pwede?
Hindi, pwede pa sa Bicam.
Pwede pa. Sa BICAM na.
Yeah.
Umabot na pala doon. Ibig mo sabihin sa Kongreso, tapos na.
If I'm not hindi, sa Kongreso kailangan pa yan pagbotohan on third reading. And it's actually a better development in the past kasi nung nakaraan narinig ko rinecommit lang sa committee eh. Bago ibasa sa floor, bago idebate sa floor at pagbotohan, binalik lang sa committee. This one, it's different this Congress dahil dito it got to see the light of day, second reading, diba? Period of interpellation and debate, naganap siya. Of course, kung binabantayan ito ng ating mga kababayan, at least na-hone ang kanilang personal na opinion at pananaw pagdating sa dynasty. Kung mapasa ito on third reading sa Congress, may process pa tayo which is the BICAM para i-reconcile yung differences. So hindi pa siya tapos. And like I said kanina, yung national budget natin for the very first time, 2026,
Yeah, this budget.
live stream siya.
Yeah.
Which is really helpful for us kasi the previous budgets were not
Yes.
broadcasted at all. And ako, isa sa mga sektor na rinerepresentahan ko, sila yung naapektuhan ng closed door budget deliberation sa BICAM. Kasi titingnan natin for example yung program ng 4Ps. 2025, 50 billion pesos yung tinapyas sa 4Ps. Previous years nun, parang 8 billion tsaka 13 billion respectively.
Okay.
These things weren't happening in the past And tuwing may tinatanggal na budget sa level na yun, of course, pumapasok siya sa ibang bagay. And of course, napakasama ng epekto ng budget slash na naramdaman ng sektor na representa ko dahil una-una, nagkaroon ng delay sa pag-release ng conditional cash grant. Hindi yun ayuda, may conditions silang kino-comply. Pangalawa, yung caseload ng mga social workers sa ground, 500 to 700 households yung iniikot nila. So, and naka-contract of service lang ilan doon. Kaya mauubusan ng tao sa ground sa pag-implement. And most importantly, yung programa to for the poorest of the poor. So imagine, kung broadcasted yung BICAM at all times, since time immemorial, marami tayong mga programa na naalagaan natin at na-implementa na mas maayos.
Okay. Sige. So, pag-usapan natin ngayon, sige, yung party list. Kasi nabanggit mo nga that may sektor kang nire-representa. Sino ba yung marginalized sector na nire-representa mo?
Of course, ang nire-representa ko ay ang urban at ang rural poor. Yun yung aking mandato. Pero of course, dahil isa akong kongresista, sinisikap ko magpasa ng as much legislations that I can do in order to help our countrymen. So tulad ng nabanggit ko kanina, nagpass tayo ng tax reform bills. I'm also big into electoral reforms. Yung pinakaunang bill na pinasa ko, ano siya? Election Day Holiday Act. I think ako na tayong pinakaunang nakapansin nun sa history ng Kongreso.
Na?
National elections natin, hindi siya regular holiday. No work, no pay. So,
Wow. I didn't know that.
yeah, no work, no pay. So, kung gawin mo siyang regular holiday, hindi mo kailangan i-sacrifice ang
Yeah, yung sweldo na mawawala nung araw na yun, no?
tama at ang karapatan mong bumoto at
Oo nga.
umuwi kung saan ka dapat bumoto. At napaka-importante yung ganitong mga bagay.
That's weird. Bakit nga ba na hindi nagawa? I'm surprised walang nakapag-isip niyan.
Nung 19th Congress, na-transmit siya sa Senate kaso lang hindi siya natuloy. I don't know why. This Congress, natapos na namin siya. I don't know kung na-transmit na namin sa Senate. I'll get back to you on that matter. Pero I salute our Electoral Reforms Chairman Zia Diong dahil at least napansin yung ganitong reform na gusto nating i-introduce sa elections. At hindi lamang yan, marami pa tayong ini-introduce na electoral reforms dahil dyan yung building block ng ating demokrasya
Okay, sige. So, grabe, alam mo, na-reelection, dami natin pwede pag-usapan. I want to go back to the party list, but before I do, I wanted to talk about the electoral reform. Kasi inaisip ko lang to, ngayon lang na sinabi mo yan. Meron tayong problema dito sa elections natin. In the previous, just recently, announced decision by the COMELEC tungkol sa issue ng SOSE ni Marcoleta, kung saan inamin niya na na hindi niya dineklara yung kanyang donors, tapos biglang tuwag-tuwa itong si COMELEC Chairman Garcia. I'm saying that, not you. Na parang nakangiti siya, nakasmirk siya nung sinabi niya na we found a loophole in the law na nakalagay na hindi daw criminal offense at hindi daw election offense na ang hindi pagdeklara ng yung donors sa campaign contributions mo, kaya hindi pwedeng ma-disqualify si Marcoleta. How are we going to fix that? Is Chairman Adyong doing something about it, or is the committee motu proprio ba yan? Can they do something about it? Because that is a travesty on the actual constitution. The spirit of the entire point of the SOSE is para nga ma-avoid natin na itong mga ganitong issues gagawin nilang hindi election offense, hindi ka pwede ma-disqualify. I'm not saying put them to jail. I'm not saying put Marcoleta to jail for that. I'm just saying na ginawa mo yan, you should not be in Senate kung ganyan lang pagbabanggit ng contributions of what is it? Ano ba 112 million? Hindi niya dineklara? Pambihira naman. It's such an insult to the actual law.
Ang masasabi ko dyan, public office is a public trust. And it's very important that we always state the truth in any and all of our disclosures. Now, as a matter of parliamentary courtesy, dahil member ako ng House,
Understandable.
I don't know also if it's within the powers of our committees to act on that matter. However, as chairperson of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, kung merong member of the House na may disclosure na hindi makatotoo, you can file it with my committee and we will act on the same.
Okay. So there are other parang remedies na pwedeng gawin. Okay, pero yung sa electoral reform kasi moving forward lang para sa akin, na sana nakita to ni Congressman Adyong na para tignan niya, sabihin niya, teka lang, may problema tayo dito sa batas na to, anong nangyari dito? At dapat ayusin nata to at i-close natin yung loophole na yan kasi hindi pwedeng ganyan eh. That's such a big issue. Hindi ka nagdeklara ng yung campaign donors. I ran for councilor here. Nagdeklara ako lahat. Sinulat ko lahat ng mga pangalan. Kahit na sabihin lang ayaw nila, kailangan ko sulat yan eh.
And I thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. And it's also an opportunity for us to introduce legislation para at least ma-reforma natin ang ating electoral system at maiwasan ng ganitong klaseng mga complications at problema sa mga susunod na halalan.
Ayan so pakibanggit na lang kay Congressman Adyong yan. You get a chance. Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
So going back to the party list, so ito yung isa sa mga hot issues right now. And I know this was one of the priority bills that President BBM wanted yung party list system kasi nga na-bastardize na yung system. People have abused it, used it for their own personal gains and benefits. I'm going to push back with you on this one. Your party list is 4Ps. 4Ps is a governmental program for the poor, di ba? Medyo may mga nagsasabi na parang ginamit mo yung 4Ps para lang madikit dito sa programa na ginagawa ng gobyerno. Is that a fair accusation? And how do you feel about that?
Well, as regards to any accusation is valid.
Okay.
And as public officials, of course, we must be held to answer for allegations such as this. Pero ako naniniwala ako that the relationship between the program and the party list is coincidental rather than intentional.
Okay.
Ang goal ng programa is to uplift the lives of the poorest of the poor
Okay.
in order to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty. Yung party list namin, yun rin ng kanyang advocacy. That is why kami rin yung nag-sponsor sa floor on second reading ng reforma sa 4Ps law itself. The program has a lifespan of 7 years.
Okay.
It was enacted into law in 2019. 2026 na ngayon. And we are expecting, if not hundreds of thousands, perhaps even 1 million of households to graduate from the program, even though they have not yet received or reached a level of self-sufficiency.
Okay.
That's why nagpapasalamat ako dahil naging priority legislation ito ng Congress. Napasa na natin on second reading ang isang panukalang batas kung saan binibigyan natin ang pagkakataon ng mga benepisyaryo na manatili sa programa kung hindi pa nila nare-reach yung level of self-sufficiency. Lalong-lalo na ngayon na naharap tayo sa isang krisis. Pangalawa, yung executive branch, may mga ini-implementa silang improvements sa programa. Isa dyan yung first 1,000 days, which is basically an investment in the health of our beneficiaries. From the womb pa lang, up until inception, nag-i-invest na tayo sa kalusugan ng bata eh. So yun, may grant para dyan. Merong ring subsidy para sa bigas. And these were all included in the previous budget, 2025. Now, this year, with yung pinapasa natin on second reading, we seek to institutionalize those things. And not just those things, Kasi may stigma yung 4Ps eh. Sinasabi ng tao, dole out or
right.
ayuda.
Right.
Hindi yan dole out o ayuda dahil may conditionalities eh. Your kid has to attend school at least 85% of the time. Parents have to attend family development sessions. Kailangan rin magpa-check up parati ng mga bata at doon lamang matatanggap ng pamilya ang kanilang grant. I-compute natin. Yung maximum educational grant na pwede matanggap ng isang pamilya under 4Ps, 1,500 pesos. 700 sa senior high, 500 sa junior high, 300 sa elementary.
What is that,
1,500.
per month? Or
Per month.
Per month,
Maximum.
okay.
Okay. Sabihin natin, yung 1,500 na yan, i-divide natin into 3 kasi 3 yung bata. Tapos, i-divide ulit natin into 22 days sa isang buwan kasi yun yung araw na papasok sa eskwela. Lalabas parang 20 pesos each lang per child ang budget ng pinakamahirap na mamamayan para ipatawid ang kanyang anak at makapagtapos ng pag-aaral. So, hindi medyo mali yung tingin ng mga ibang tao sa programa na ayuda siya or conditional dole-out. It's not. Saktong pangtawid lamang siya. And that's why we are introducing several reforms in the program kung saan ine-ensure natin na pagka-graduate ng K-12, hanggang K-12 lang kasi yung 4Ps, pagka-turn ng 18, wala na yan eh. At least may opportunity ka mag-enroll sa tertiary education, technical vocational institutions, or kung gusto mo sumali bilang uniform personnel. Para hindi masayang investment ng gobyerno dahil ang daming nagagawa ng mga graduates sa program, ang daming naging top-notcher and they are really giving back to the Filipino society.
Wow, okay. So, being the party list representative for 4Ps, which is not the same
Not the same.
as the 4Ps
Marami
program.
kaming champions sa Congress, sa 4Ps program.
Okay, that means wala kang hawak sa implementasyon.
Wala. But we exercise oversight. That is why I highlighted na travesty yung 2025 50 billion budget cut. Nung bumalik nga ako I think this was in 2023, nung unang na-flag namin na nagkaroon ng pagtapyas sa budget ng 4Ps. Imagine na, benepisyaryo ka ng programa, isa ka sa mga pinakamahihirap nating kababayan. You comply with all the requirements kahit walang-wala ka. You send your kid to school,
Yep.
you have them checked up, you attend the sessions. Isang taon wala kang natanggap na kahit ano. So, grabe yung effect nito. Yung mga nag-i-implement sa ground, 500 to 700 households yung iniikot ng mga social workers, bigla mong tatapyasan ng ganong kalaki ang pondo, ano yung mangyayari?
O sige, so I think ang ano kasi, ang kritisismo ng mga kababayan nating iba dyan ay hindi yung sa pagtutulong, pero sa paraan kung paano na-implementa itong pagtutulong. Kasi nga, tingin ko, ang perception ng tao ay may mga nakikinabang dito o ginagawa siyang parang pang-patronage politics ng mga ating mambabatas. So yun yung dalawa. So number one, na parang dahil sabi natin si Kong JC, inendorso, may ganun ba?
Walang ganon.
Walang ganun. Okay, so ka-clarify natin, kahit may lumapit sa'yo, wala kang pwedeng bigyan na endorsement na, uy, asikasuhin mo naman to.
Ganito yun eh. Noong isa batas ang 4Ps law, ano yan? May National Household Targeting System. Yun yung batayan kung sino nakakasama sa 4Ps. Yung listahanan noong araw. Ngayon, pinas natin yung CBMS. Pasado na yung CBMS law, I think 2020.
What the
ba yun?
CBMS?
The CBMS Act pertains to the Community-Based Monitoring System.
Okay.
Ito yung census na ini-implement ng PSA. Bawat household, pinoprofile nila, minomonitor nila, and based on that data, doon nila ika-classify kung sino dapat ang nakikinabang sa mga social amelioration programs ng gobyerno. Hindi lang para sa 4Ps, but the CBMS is the backbone of all our services. Umaasa dyan, DSWD, DOH, DOLE, DSUD, you name it. Backbone siya ng lahat ng services. Ano yung isang thing na na-flag natin nung kina-craft in 2026 budget? Ako, dahil sinusundan ko parati yung CBMS Act kung ini-implement ba talaga at the household level. Kasi naniniwala ako dapat data-driven yung budget.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Yung budget call, usually nangyayari yan ng first quarter. Yung nakakalungkot nun, while the budget plenary debates were ongoing, tinanong ko yung Philippine Statistics Authority, natapos yun na ba ang implementation ng CBMS? Sabi nila, hindi. Tapos sinabi ko, so ibig sabihin ba nun, nung pinaplan ng national budget, yung backbone ng
Lumang
lahat
data.
ng social services, ano yung basis natin for allocating X amount for this, X amount for that? Kung wala pa yung CBMS, kung hindi siya nako-complete. That is why I would like to thank the Committee on Poverty Alleviation led by Chairperson, former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, na siya yung nag-pilot ng 4Ps. Magbabasa kami ng resolution soon requesting that we convene the Oversight Committee pagdating sa CBMS. Kasi ako naniniwala ako na dapat data-driven lahat
So what was the database on? What year?
Dapat natapos siya 2025 pa lang So, 2025.
So hindi
2024,
natapos?
2025.
Natapos?
Hindi siya totally complete. I mean,
Wow.
PSA would claim mga 90%, etc. Pero ako naniniwala ako, when you plan a national budget,
Yes.
of course, kailangan napapatupad yung CBMS kasi yan yung backbone Bawat household, bawat rehiyon, bawat liblib na lugar sa laylayan, makikita yung datos, makikita ng department, and they would make the necessary requests based on the data that comes out.
Okay, so the other issue is the implementation, yan. So problema yan, yung data, baka mali-mali yung data natin, number one. Number two, naririnig ko on the ground na unfortunately, yung mga ganyang ginagawa ng PSA, tama, yung statistics, ay paminsan-minsan depende on may mga political movements yan na sinuportahan mo ba yung kandidato natin o hindi? Kasi kung hindi, baka hindi ka masama sa 4Ps. May mga narinig akong ganun So,
Kung may ganun mga cases, pwede naman sa akin isumbong, Chris, or pwede natin isumbong sa agency concerned dahil wala talaga.
Dapat hindi,
Data-driven. And of course, yung 4Ps program, science-based kung sino yung pinipili. And it's very important for us to ensure that the CBMS is complete now. The PSA claims that it's complete now. And I hope that it is indeed complete now. Dahil ang daming mag-exit this year. 7 years
Aha.
lang yung buhay ng 4Ps.
right.
2019, 2026. May mga bagong papasok na benepisyaryo. Kailangan yung mga qualified talagang makapasok dyan.
Okay, sige. So, nung natanggal yung 50 billion, sabi mo, this is for 2026. How does that affect the families that were currently on it or that are currently on it? Paano na? Ilang pamilya ang napektado nito?
Well, unlike 2024, no? Kasi nung na-discover namin dati na nagka-budget deficit dahil sa budget slash sabay kamang 4Ps, nagkaroon talaga ng problema sa ground.
Wow.
Pero ngayong 2025, nung na-slash ng 50 billion, I would like to commend, of course, the DSWD headed by Secretary Rex dahil it didn't encounter the same problems. I think na-augment ang kanilang budget and it didn't encounter the same problems as they did in the past nung nagka-slash. Siguro dahil may previous experience na kami na na-slash,
Yep.
nabantayan namin, na-report, nag-coordinate yung executive branch.
And for me, I actually I wasn't really sure kung paano nag-work yung 4Ps. And ang ganda nung narinig ko and I agree with that yung pag for example, may maternity leave for the kids, for me,
Right.
from the time na is it the entire 8 months na
Yep.
buntis?
First 1,000 days.
Alagang-alaga sila
First
gano'n
1,000.
and for the schooling gano'n. I think that's a good idea.
And if I may add, sorry Sir Chris, in the House version of the amended 4Ps Act na gusto namin isulong, we would like to give private employers a tax incentive should they choose to employ,
Yun.
'di ba, yung mga former beneficiaries ng program kasi that's how you break the intergenerational cycle
Yeah.
of poverty. You give them aid when they need it, you invest in their education, you give them skills, you give them employment.
Yun. Okay. Idadagdag yun on the 4Ps law?
Yes, that's what we want to add. And pumasa na siya on second reading sa House. And I am hoping for a favorable third reading when we resume in May.
Wow. Okay. Ang dami palang ginagawa. Hindi ko na-realize yun. It's comforting to know na meron palang mga ganitong klaseng programa. So, with regards to this, do you think yung sa not with the 4Ps in particular, but just for party list system. How do we clean up the party list system where yung may mga matitinong party list naman eh. I actually agree with the party list system kasi alam ko naman na may mga marginalized sectors that need to be represented. Urban Poor has several party lists representing them, right? Several. Who are the others?
Well, ako ayoko na lang. Baka may hindi ako ma-mention.
Sige, wag na lang. Sige, wag na lang. Sige, wag mo lang
Pero
bagitin.
maraming champions. Marami talagang champions.
Right. So, hindi lang isa, marami. So, you can have several party lists representing particular marginalized sector, not just one.
Right. And of course, it's also very important for the information of our countrymen and of course sa mga aspiring public servants natin sa future, no. Kung ma-elect ka sa party list system, may mandato ka sa sektor na rinirepresentahan mo. That's for sure. Pero wag mo kalimutan yung constituency mo, hindi lang yung sektor mo, kung hindi ang bawat mamamayang Pilipino. So yun ang napaka-importante. That's why I've always made it a point na number one, kung magle-legislate ako, of course, you have to represent your base. You have to represent the people you represent. And number two, don't forget the general populace kasi we all live and die by the consequences of all of our actions.
Wow, okay. Well, Kong JC, thank you so much sa oras mo. Ang dami kong natutunan sa'yo dito sa usapan natin. Sana rin marami natutunan yung ating mga audience dito sa mga pinag-usapan natin today. And honestly, I wanted to dive deeper pa nga on some of these issues and thank you for clarifying the issue with the party list system, with the 4Ps, yung ayuda system, kung ayuda nga ba yun o hindi. And also with regards to the anti-political dice. And I'm glad na no holds barred ka. Kong JC, if people wanted to be able to reach you, especially mga constituents mo, how are they able to do that? What is the best way to do that?
Well, ako yung sa akin, pwede naman mag-send sa aking official email. Much of my legislation would come from NGOs, private individuals, kung meron silang suggestions, kung may mga batas tayo na pwedeng i-introduce at pagandahin. I always consult also with the academe in all things that I do. And of course, ako madali naman ako imbitahan sa kahit anong mga bagay na makakatulong para sa ating lahat.
Great. And with that, thank you so much para sa oras mo, Kong JC. And for the viewers out there, pag nagugustuhan mo yung mga ganitong klaseng content, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. At kung meron kang mga opinion or against or for sa sinabi ni Kong JC, sulat niya sa comment section sa ibaba. I try to read all the comments and hopefully I'll have Kong JC back on the show with everyone. Salamat sa pagsusubaybay nyo. Kong JC, again, thank you for coming on the show. I hope this won't be the last time we're gonna have this conversation.
Definitely.
And for everyone else, thank you. Now you guys lasted this long and watch this episode. We will see you guys on the next episode. Ako si Kristan. See you and thanks.